On this episode of the Journey to the Baja 1000, we use Bendtech and a couple of angle grinders to build the roll cage for the J10 Race Truck. Hey folks, my name's Dave. Welcome to this 11th edition of the Journey to the Baja 1000. This episode is going to be a part 2 of using the Bendtech software, and we're getting better at using it, making the roll cage for the J10 Race Truck. What I'm going to show you today is that there's basically two different things I am doing with the Bendtech software. I'm either cutting a tube on both ends where I have a bend in the middle or I don't have a bend in the middle. And you're going to see that the way you do that is different for both of those. And it'll probably cover 90% of the cages that you might be making for yourself in your own garage. Let's go ahead and start looking at how I find pick points. We'll take a look at the software and then also get to the actual physical cutting and bending of the tubes. Let's start with the pick points. So I'm going to do my best to explain what I'm doing with pick points. Now, pick points are the way that Bendtech sets like the locations for all the tubes. So right now I'm trying to build what is the A pillar. So it's going to start right down here. It's going to go up the side of the door and then the A pillar. I'll go parallel to this old part of the truck right here, across the top, and then connect to the B pillar hoop. Now the challenges with the pick points is that the pick points are, in this case where there's a bend, it is the point where if you'd continue the two tubes, where those tubes would intersect. Not necessarily where it's actually going to be, because that tube's going to make a bend and it's going to be inside that pick point. So you really got to be careful as you measure this, that you bring it all the way up, so you don't have the tube sitting too far inside as you make your pick point. You're not picking where the bend is going to be, it's where the intersection of the tubes would be. So some of the things I'm using here, just some tape. I'm using a level to get a vertical tube off of there to figure out where it would stop. And then also one of my favorite tools, I'm using a magnet to hang my grandfather's old plumb bob right there. And I'll use that plumb bob to figure out exactly where that pick point is going to land. Because what you need to do is you need to be able to anchor the pick point off of something. What I'm going to do is this point right here. This is a good point inside my computer. And so now I know, like for example, the point that's going up here is going 24 inches vertically. It's going to be totally 90 degrees from this tube, but it's got to come out about 2 inches horizontally, and that's where that point will be. And then now you can see I'm using this, the ruler right here, to figure out where this plumb bob lands. And again, I will measure off of this point. It'll be what, about 15 inches this way, 4 or 5 inches this way, and then about maybe 35 inches up, whatever that ends up being for that pick point. And that's the stuff that we're going to put into the Bendtech software. Let's go ahead and take a look at how that goes into the Bendtech. First of the two different ways we're going to cut tubes today. The first one being fish mouth on both ends, straight tube. The second one being fish mouth on both ends with a bend in the middle. Here's the first one. I want to cut out this tube. I actually have almost all the other ones in there, and since I'm getting pretty good at the process, let me show you what I learned along the way on how to make this go pretty smoothly. I will say that what you need to do is you need to go in there, and as you cut, bend, and all those stuff, and weld tack all these other tubes in there, you need to go back and verify that your pick points that you've put in are accurate. If they've moved because of welding that's pulled them around or something like that, even by 1/4 of an inch, you got to go in there and adjust it. Otherwise, all the other tubes are going to be jamming them in there and using hydraulics to pull this thing around. So keep those updated as you go, and it won't be too big of a task. So I want to cut out this tube right here. I need to cut them in relation to the other tubes that are out there. So I'm going to go to the cutting menu, and I'm going to say make a new cut. Now, since I have the other ones in there, I got to cut this one in relation to the other tube. So I'm going to say I'm going to cut that tube. I'm going to cut it in relation to that one. You know what? I don't want that one. And pretty much that one. And I'm going to say complete that cut. And now I can zoom in and verify, yep, it looks like those fish mouths are in the correct orientation for this tube. So that looks good. Now I need to cut the other side. Let's say new cut. I'm going to cut this tube. I'm going to cut it in relation to that tube, and that tube. And say complete that. And again, I'm going to zoom in. And that looks like it will cut it all in the way I want. Obviously, I didn't need that one. It didn't go down there that far. I just put it in there for just in case, because you never know. Sometimes the tube actually reaches down and touches it, and you just didn't realize it did, and you got to go back and cut it. So it might as well just click all the tubes that it might actually touch. From there, now it drops these cuts down over here. I double click on them, and now I can print that one out, and then I can double click on that one. I can print that one out. And then I'll cut out the templates. Let me show you how I put them on efficiently and cut the tube to the correct length before I cut the fish mouths. All right, so just a couple of thoughts as I get into the cutting of these pieces of paper. First off, this tool I have is something my 6-year-old boy told me to get, and it is it just obviously just cuts paper straight, but it is awesome because there's a little line on there, and you can put it on top of the lines on the paper that you want to cut, and it nails it exactly. And that brings me to when you're cutting this thing, realize that any error you have will translate to errors later on as you're trying to cut the tube and weld the tube. So I would say aim small, miss small. I think that was out of a movie Patriot or something like that, but you really got to try to nail as closely as you can. I will leave, as I'm cutting, a little bit of hangover too. Like as I make this first cut right here, generally I will leave about 1/4 of an inch on the side of that cut. As I make the second cut, I will generally also leave 1/4 of an inch on the side of that cut. But as I hit this third cut, I will try to nail it right on the line. And that way when I wrap it, I have a little bit of overlap on the wrap, and it just helps me close the wrap around the tube a little bit better. And here's the tedious part, and you got to do this for everyone. I think I probably cut over 200 of these so far. Is I am trying to, as I cut this out, I'm trying to split the black line with the scissors. So I'm doing the best that I can to cut that thing right down the black line all the way around. Again, aim small, miss small, because this translates to where you're going to cut, where you're going to grind, and later on the joints that you're going to try to weld. And if you hit these perfect, I'm telling you, it will. You'll have almost a zero gap. I can just barely sometimes stick my fingernail in the gap that it leaves on the tubes as I fit them together before I start to weld. So on these pieces of paper that I just cut out, there's a couple numbers on there, but the ones that really matter are this top one where it says 22 inches. The 25 1/4 down the bottom distance to the end, I just don't care about. What I want to know is what is the distance between that line and that line once it's on the tube. What I will do is I'll mark it off on, again, this little piece of aluminum, this straight edge that I got probably from Home Depot or something like that. It's a lightweight piece of angle iron, and I'll mark it on that so I can transfer it accurately onto the tube. Okay, so how do I know what length I need to cut the tubes? Well, first thing I'll do is those pieces of paper I just cut out, I will go ahead and lay those on my table. And in that piece of angle of aluminum where I marked out 22 inches, I will line up the lines with that. So now I will know how long that tube needs to be. At that point, I'm just going to measure the distance between the extremes of the fish mouths on both sides, and I'll take that measurement over to my bandsaw and cut it. There might be some numbers in the computer program. I just find that this was the best way to waste the least amount of tube as I was cutting them. So before I put the paper sleeves onto the tubes, I will actually prep them for welding. And that does two things. One is it makes it just so much easier because it's in an easy position to get right now. So I'll use some Scotch-Brite to clear off all the mill scale, and then just a little bit of acetone. But then it also makes it such that it takes the Sharpie ink a little bit better. It doesn't wipe off so easily with the clean bare metal. All right, now that the tube is cleaned up and ready to go, I'm going to take both the piece of papers and I'm going to go ahead and start putting those on the tube. Making sure that I line up, especially this reference line all the way around. And then I'm going to get a piece of tape, which you should have pre-cut and ready to go, on there. And I'm going to try and make this tube a little bit snug on there so it doesn't slide around after I put it into place. I will just put both sides on at the same time. No need to line up anything just yet. Line that line up as best you can. All right, now the reference lines. Just visually, I'm going to go ahead and I know that these pieces of paper go pretty close to the ends. I'm going to try to visually line them up as best I can. Now this is where I'm gonna take this piece of angle iron again. I already have the 22 inches marked off on here. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put that right in one of the corners and line that up over here. And then once it's there, now I can go ahead and just take this sleeve and just slide it until it is lined up. You know, if one of them slides better than the other, what I'll do, like this one's really tight. So what I might do is now just go back and line this one up on the 22. And then I'll rotate this one to get it in place. And once this one is right on that corner, realize that this is going to, of course, this angle iron lines itself up automatically. It's going right down. I'm lining up this longitudinal line. I'm also lining up this radial line here on the end, this one on the 22. And then now these things are perfectly indexed with each other. And now I can mark onto the tube and get ready to cut. All right, I'm ready to mark this thing. I usually go through, and I'm a little neurotic here, but I triple check this thing to make sure that I'm lined up, because I'm about to do a lot of cutting on this and I just don't want to waste the other time. Another thing I'll do before I mark up the tubes, I might just mark across the paper onto the tube, and that will give me a reference. I can look back later, and if that sleeve rotated while I was marking the tube or something like that, I will see that on that mark right there. And then from there, I just kind of start marking the edge of the tube. What I will do is sometimes I'll run along the seam, but a lot of times if I get it especially to a corner, what I'll do is I'll run the pen off of the paper, basically pushing the paper down as I'm marking it. And that does a pretty good job of leaving a pretty sharp line all the way around that tube. Try to keep it as black as possible because it'll make it easier to see once I start cutting it. I have tried doing this with a paint pen. It just didn't work. I mean, it worked okay. I just didn't see the value in it. I had a couple of those, and it just, the Sharpie does just about as good. You don't have to deal with the getting the paint on there and letting it dry and all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of sticking with a Sharpie. It seems to be doing a pretty good job.
Ready?
Good. Okay, I just wanted to do a quick little overview of what I do to make parts off of Bendtech. And I'm taking one of the more complicated ones, which is my A-pillar. And I like to say that I did it perfect the first time. Actually, this is my third one. The second one came out pretty good, so this is the third one. The first one I had to trash because I messed up. Let me show you how I messed it up. It was a misinterpretation on how I was supposed to use the Bendtech software. So first of all, I'm going to make the driver's side A-pillar over here. So I'm going to start off by bending a piece of metal. You know what? I got to go back. I'm going to bend it twice. So 2 bends. I'm going to start over here. This thing's a little bit crazy how you move it around, but over there, I'm going to go to the point over your head, down the A-pillar, and then down the door here. And there is my part. It's going to be called part number 11, and there's what it's going to look like once I bend the part. I'm going to go ahead and I got these 2 ends over here, which are going to need to be fish mouth to the end of the tube. So I'll go ahead and go to cutting. I'm going to start a new cut. And again, if you're at this point and you've done Bendtech before, then you know how to cut and all those kind of things. And if you don't know how to do that, or if you don't know how to do pick points, there are plenty of tutorials. This is maybe just a little bit more advanced here, but I want to cut that tube right there, and I want to cut it in relation to those 2 tubes. I'll complete that one, and pow, it drops the start cut right down there. I'm going to make another cut. I want to cut this tube, and these are the 2 profiles it's got to cut it up against and complete those. And now I can open up those tubes, those cuts, and look at the cut profile. And this is a piece of paper that I will use. I'll go ahead and print that, and I'll show you what I'll do once we print those things out. Next, I need to look at the way that the tube is going to be bent. So I'm going to go to the parts list. I'm going to make sure I have that tube selected, and go to the part detail, and that's going to show me, if I go over to part details, the bend order. Now it's just going to show the order in which things are bent. So I know that I've got to make a mark on the tube that's 22 5/8 inches. And then once I get to that point in my tube bender, which I'll show you here in a moment, I need to bend that at 45 degrees. And you hit play and it shows you bending those tubes. But more importantly, another trick I'm going to show you here in a second is I've got to rotate the tube 4 degrees in between the first bend and the second bend, just because of the geometry of the tube. And I'll show you a cool tool that I made for that. First things first though, so that's the bending I'm going to do. First things first, I got to go over there and cut a piece of tubing that is 77 1/8 inches long. So let's get to that first. So let me sing the praises of the bandsaw one more time. There is just no other tool that I have that, one, it makes it easier for me to accurately measure things that I'm going to cut. And then two, just the longevity of the blade. I have made this entire car so far and I'm still on one blade. It doesn't heat the metal up. It just does an awesome job of cutting. And so these are more expensive than some of the other saws that I have. I think it's about, it's probably $1,000 for a bandsaw like this. But when you look at the other saws I have and the number of blades I've gone through, it just makes this one make so much more sense. All right, step two is marking the tube that I just cut for where I want to bend it. And I'm going to show you what I do. I just put a very few marks in there, but I also write the dimensions on there so that I can see them while they're in the bender. I'll show you how I do that. So by putting the mark in this orientation, when it's in my bender, I'll be able to see that number to verify that I'm making the bend in the right place. So this is my Ender 3 3D printer printing out a tool I just designed in Fusion 360, and now I'm printing it out. It takes about probably 10 hours for this one to print out. But just from idea to making a print, don't have to go buy it from anybody, and probably cost me about 50 cents in filament to print out. Such an awesome tool. Check out my first tool tips if you're interested in Ender 3. I'll also put a link for it in my description below. So now I have that same piece of metal with the markings in my JD squared, what is it? A Model 32 tube bender, and it's ready to bend. I have one of my levelers here. I check the tube. Again, as you saw before, it's super important that the tube going in is level in relation to your bending die, and those are exactly on together. And now I want to be able to measure the rotation. Here's something I just came up with. I have a couple of these straight edges. This is probably some cheap piece of aluminum that I got from Home Depot or something like that, but it's just an aluminum 90 or piece of angle iron. And when I put that down on the tube, that makes sure that whatever line I draw falls exactly longitudinally along the tube. I'm just going to pick a line as close as I can get. It doesn't really have to be exact to the top of the tube. I'm going to mark it with my Sharpies. Once I have that line on there, now I'm going to go ahead and line up my angle cube. Now this is something that I don't think existed. I needed something that would hold my angle cube. And if you see here, there's a little nick mark in there where I have it so I can index it, the angle cube, 90 degrees out from whatever mark I put on the tube. I made this with my 3D printer, and if you go back and check, I think it's the first tooltips. If you go back and check that out, you can see how I put my 3D printer to work is one of the best tools I have in my garage. So this is a 2-inch circle. It's got a little cutout there so it can sleeve over the top of this tube. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and index it right, that little notch, right that line I just drew. I'm going to turn the angle cube on. I'm going to tell it right now you're at 0. And then now I know as I feed that tube in, and on the second bend, I need to turn it 4 degrees. So I'll just make sure it's on that line again because it could spin or something like that. I'll rotate the tube 4 degrees. The angle cube will tell me within 1/100th of how close I am to that 4 degrees, and I can make the next bend. Let's get to the bending. So before I bend, I'm going to go back to my chart here. This is for my 2-inch tubes, a 6.5 radius tube bender that I have in the JD squared right now. These are all the bends I've done. The results as far as, this is what I try to bend it to. These are the results to give me the spring back. The last bends I just did are the exact same bends. I was shooting for 45 degrees. I bent it to 49 degrees, planning on 4 degrees of spring back, and sure enough, I hit it within 0.2 degrees. That's pretty good in my book there. The next one, I bent 39 degrees. I plan on 3.5 degrees of spring back, and again, I missed it by 0.2 degrees. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and bend this next two exactly the same. Let's get on the bender. So here's one of those learn from my mistake moments. I made the assumption when I bent one of these, and now it's in that graveyard of bent tubes in my workshop back there. I made the assumption that the top of the tube where it was bending was also the reference line that you line up the sleeves with, that you're going to help you cut the fish mouths. So on these sheets of paper that you're going to cut out in a second here, they have these reference lines, and you got to line it up on something. And here's what you got to do: is if you got a bend and a cut on the same piece of metal, is wherever you're going to cut, the closest bend to that cut is what it's going to reference off of. So I have clamped this piece down so this bend is down against the table. So now I know that what you do is you take the line off the apex of that bend, the furthest part out of that bend, and you draw it across the front of the tube. So what I did is, since that part is all the way down and it's clamped down there, I know it's the same distance over here. I have a piece of wood that's half of the thickness of the tube, so it's 1 inch, 2 inch tube, 1 inch thickness piece of wood. I put that up against my tube now, and with a nice sharp pencil, I'm going to go ahead and mark that, and that will be where I put the paper sleeve once I make that, and that's where I'm going to line up that reference line. At this point, just like the straight tubes, now you're just putting those paper sleeves on the tube. Just remember, this time you're not measuring from the distance from each of the pieces of paper. You're referencing the distance from the end of the tube you cut. And that's why it's so important that you cut that tube accurately to the correct length, because in this case it might be 2 1/8 inch that I'm going from the end of the tube, that closest end to it. And that'll also make it different the way you cut this piece of paper, because now I'm actually going to cut it right on that radial reference line. So before we get to cutting, let's just talk really quickly about safety. I'm going to be using an angle grinder. It's going to have one of these high-speed discs on here, 4.5 inch discs. The thing's going to be flying. And if you haven't seen videos of people with these things coming apart, they stick in the skin, they take eyeballs out and those kinds of things. So you really got to be careful with that. First, I'll just make sure I have a new blade, or the blade looks good. Don't wear it all the way down to a nub while you're cutting that thing. And then as far as protecting the face, I'm going to use double eye protection. So I will use my regular eye protection, which over here somewhere, and this the shield. Also, it gives off a lot of fine powder dust, and I wear a respirator just so I don't get the black lung. I usually wear like cheap gloves when I'm handling the metal to just keep the oils and that kind of stuff off my skin, but when I'm angle grinding, it's got to be good leather gloves that won't be penetrated by a spinning disc that shatters or something like that. To clean it up, I'll go ahead and go over it with an angle grinder, and I use a flap disc. And you know, I kind of like, as opposed to a new flap disc, I like the old ones just because they're radius, and it actually helps you get in there and make those radius carves that you're going to need to do. Let me show you how I do that, with both starting with the angle grinder first and then hitting it with the flap disc. I use 2 angle grinders because I go back and forth so many times. I don't like to, swap discs and those kinds of things. And I'll put a link to these in my description below. So here's the last part of that aim small, miss small. You got to get your cuts as close as you can to that black line that you drew. And since you drew it on the outside of the paper, I try to cut all of the black off. And what I'll do is I'll start with that angle grinder, I'll start it, and then I'll walk it into that line and make the cut. And then you can't get the whole cut a lot of the times. There's a piece that's hanging off, you can't get the angle grinder in there. But if you just get a pair of pliers, as long as it's a small, like within about 1/4 inch, you can just get in there and rip the piece off, and then it'll rip off pretty cleanly. After you rip that off, then go ahead, now you can grab your other angle grinder that has the flap disc on it, and now you can start carving in there. And again, if it's slightly radiused, it makes it easy to kind of follow the contours of this tube that you're cutting, and you get pretty close. Literally within about a width of a hair, you'll see you'll just kind of barely shave off the black line. And then when you put the tube on the chassis, it's going to be a perfect fit. Well, the angle grinder and all that just makes a mess of your garage. This is probably gonna be one of my tool tips later on. One of these magnetic brooms, I'll put it again in my description below. Such a cool tool. It does such a really good job of cleaning up all the fine, small pieces of metal. There's that tube placed in the position. You can see the gaps look pretty good. I'm pretty sure that my 6-year-old can do that weld. It's pretty nice. All the way around, you know, all the tubes that are here, I did basically using that same procedure, just cutting the piece of paper, putting it on there. Probably just did it about 100 times though, so I got a little bit better at it as I went through. You can kind of see how my technique was there. Hopefully that helps. All right, check it out. Here it is, the J10. Still missing a little bit of the back end here, but it's getting pretty darn close. And you can see just with that Bendtech software, man, I'm able to create some really super complicated nodes, which I just don't know how else you would do that. I don't know how else people can get those to work with. And really all I'm doing is I put it in the Bendtech software, I make the cut, and literally the pieces almost snap together as I make this thing. You can kind of see all the parts just kind of coming together nicely. And the more confident, the more accurate that I got with the software and cutting the tubes, the better they went together. I was literally not having to do much trimming at all. And you can see that, you know, sometimes I got to weld just a little bit of a gap here, but for the most part, you know, it's gonna be really easy gaps to fill in there and do some of the TIG welding, which you can already see that I've started on some of that TIG welding. So I've got a lot of welding to do. For those of you that are keeping up with the truck build, I'm gonna give you a quick update of all the stuff I've got going on for this build. So you see the trailing arms in there. That was what I cut on that indexing video, the third Langmuir Systems video. I got the rear axle. We are gonna be doing a video, and I wanna do a 5-minute video showing how we swapped out the Yukon locker into this 14-bolt axle, and how it's just super easy to do. Just a really quick reference video I'll do for that. Let's go ahead and take a look over here at the front of the truck, which I did a whole bunch of videos on how to cut the top and the lower A-arms, how I did that, and then also how I made this steering system. I don't know if anyone else has ever done a steering system like this before, where I'm using the stock GM steering box out of the 2010 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD, and basically making it push that slider, and the steering works awesome. I've got great steering out of this thing. It looks like the front suspension is going to give me about 20 to 22 inches of travel. I'll have about 30 inches of travel in the rear suspension. You can see been working on these upper shock mounts, a whole bunch of parts, just totally cranking it out. If you haven't been paying attention, I got about 40 days from now to have this truck ready for the Baja 1000. So there's still a lot of fabrication. I got to do a lot of work. A lot of the work is done. You know, most of the wiring on the engine is done. It's ready to drop in. I just put the shifter on it, and it's looking pretty good. It's working well. The fuel system, I got all the parts. Got all the parts for the brake system in, and the cooling will be getting that here soon. So now it's just kind of coming together with some of the smaller parts, but the big question marks, you know, how this thing is going to go together is solved. And I think, you know, now I'm feeling pretty good as we start getting towards the end of this build. Well, usually in these videos, I say I don't get anything for promoting some of the things I'm using on the videos. But in this case, the guys at Bendtech saw my video and sent me a t-shirt and a couple stickers. And I just want to say thank you to those guys, especially for making such an amazing product that I've been using to build the J10 Race Truck. Well, I recently saw in one of the forums, somebody was asking, what is the best tube notcher I can get for my shop? And after using Bendtech software, I would say forget the tube notcher. Get yourself the software and go find an angle grinder. Actually get two. I would get two non-battery angle grinders. One you can have a flap disc on all the time, and one you can have a cutting wheel on all the time. I have the JD Squared Beast, which I think is probably the best tube notcher that you can get out there. However, I find I use it mostly as a vise or as an anvil sometimes because the thing is so big. But just now, after using the software, I just don't see any reason to have a tube notcher anymore. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We got 40 days left. We're still trying to crush it, get this truck ready for the Baja 1000. They just released the course, and we're super excited. It looks like about 830 miles, I think, for the sportsman classes, which we're going to be racing in this year. Still got to get a lot of parts. We're heading up to Car Tech tomorrow. Nice to have a specialty shop like that nearby, and they're truly, I think, the best as far as providing race products for guys like me out there, and super easy to deal with. With that, thank you again for joining us. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care of yourself.